What's going on, everyone? Today we are back with another farming strategy. Now, although I do all of the farming strategy videos, as in I do the strategies, and they all work, and I all really like them every single league, there's usually one strategy that I use as my main money-making practice, and that would be the one that we're talking about today. Now, I do not have hard numbers on this. I know a lot of people like spreadsheets, and it's 30 div an hour, some Empyrean stuff. I don't do that because I don't sell everything. I hate putting everything into a wealthy exile tab and saying, oh, I made this, but it didn't sell. Half that stuff isn't going to sell. I don't like that, but I can very safely say that whenever I buy something and I dip to maybe like 60 or 70 divine, I run this for a day, day and a half, maybe 5 or 6 hours, even less sometimes. I run kind of slowly, especially when I'm streaming. Because I'm focused on other things. I just immediately, when I check again, am above 100 div all the time. So it makes a ton of currency. Now, disclaimer, it is a tougher strategy. It is hard. It does use tier 17 maps, which are hard. They are actually pretty hard. Most people consider them harder than Uber bosses, but you can take your time, go slower. I think you can kind of fake your way through this a little bit, and it can still be profitable. But in general, it is kind of working how I think these strategies should work. I think the harder the content, the more profitable it should be. I think that's a good middle ground. This tier 17 maps might be a little too difficult, but either way, hear it out, hear the strategy. You may be able to do it, or you can do a little bit more of a toned down version that we will talk about. Now, we are going to be farming tier 17 maps, and instead of selling them, we are going to be running them ourselves. So now I did a video on how to farm tier 17 maps easily. Now we are running a more hybrid Atlas tree, so we don't have to keep switching in between trees, whether we're farming them, farming to get the T17 maps, or if we're actually running them ourselves. So this is the basic tree. Now, if you've seen these strategies, you aren't going to see anything particularly different than the vast majority. Maybe there's a couple things that I changed that I like a little bit better. But you can see we go very heavy into Scarabs and increasing the explicit modifiers on your maps. Now, this makes the pack size, quantity, rarity, all of that good stuff higher on your maps, but it also increases the effect of the modifiers that make it harder. So this is where the real toughness comes in. So we're taking all of the increased explicit modifiers, taking all of the good Scarab nodes. We take some more explicit modifiers per map quality over here, and we do some stuff to make more rewarding monsters appear, 10% more of them with invasive adversaries. Go over here, we can get some more haunted monsters, some more rare monsters, and just general corpses. Now we turn off some content. Now we're using back to basics, so that's going to make it, either 0 to 80% more explicit modifier effect. This is really what makes this strategy really strong. It's also one of the things that makes the maps really strong, but it is very beneficial. Since we aren't getting more quantity, we can turn off since we aren't getting more content with back to basics, you aren't getting any extra content. You can't run blight. You can't run, heist caches, anything like that. We could turn off some of the scarabs that aren't really worth as much. These are the ones that I have turned off. Delirium isn't really worth much anymore. Ritual. Ritual is fun, but not a lot of people run it. It doesn't seem to be that worth it. And then, some more scarab stuff. Go down here, get some more haunting stuff. Get some more unresolved anguish on our monsters to get some more corpses. This Atlas tree will be linked in the description. I'm not going to go too in depth, but just know we want quantity and things like that. Now, if you are just buying the maps, you can actually take out some of the things that make more maps drop. If you are just buying them, and you can put those into points like, get these essence ones up here just to make it towards the middle. Get some more quantity and rarity on these three. But I like having one tree to be able to farm the maps a little bit easier, and taking, things like shaping the skies to just help get more and more maps and increase your odds of a tier 17 dropping. Now, when you're deciding what maps to farm for, you can see there are 5 tier 17 maps, and they all have a bias to drop from certain maps. The best ones are Abomination and Ziggurat. The reason for that is because they have a bias to drop the reality shards when you kill the boss. Now, the bosses aren't particularly the easiest. That award goes to the Fortress map. The heist boss in here, I think, is the easiest, and a lot of people agree with me because his moves are very telegraphed. So if you aren't sure if you're going to be able to run these and kill the boss effectively, it's best to test this on something like a Fortress map. You can run dunes, or you can run Strand. Those are probably the two easiest maps. Dunes especially, everyone loves Dunes. It is a great map, good mob density, and just just all around good pack size. I personally run the Abomination map because the other one that can drop the reality fragments, if we go to POE and you look at my fragments, you can see that by far the reality fragments are worth 2 divine apiece. Next would be the decaying fragment at 63 chaos apiece. So in the grand scheme of things, you want to be running the bosses that have a more inclination to get the reality fragments, and those are the Ziggurat maps and the Abomination maps, those two bosses. Abomination, I think, is easier because the Ziggurat map boss is the Uber Katarina fight, and Katarina is a huge pain in the ass. I have a hard time with her. If you think that boss is easy, then run a Ziggurat map. Change your map to, one of the maps that you can get a Ziggurat from. What's a good one? Thicket. Man, some of these kind of suck. Bramble Valley. Estuary. Geode's not terrible. Yeah, you get the picture. You want to, if you want to run a Ziggurat map, if that boss is easier for you, you can certainly run one of these to get that map. So when I run tier 17 or tier 16 maps to get tier 17, I like to run fields. The Scarabs that I use the non-unique maps are corrupted with 8 modifiers. This makes it so I drop more fields maps that already are very much have a lot of quantity on them and some rarity and stuff like that, and some good pack size on them, and you'll drop a decent amount of maps to the point where you can look, and if you can't run a certain map, it's not that big a deal. You should be sustaining these maps. You can keep running them. When you favor your maps, you want to do the normal strategy of favoring whatever map you want the most, and then putting one on a connected map, that being fields. My connected map, I am putting Strand. Strand is just a decent map in general, so getting some Strand maps isn't a terrible idea. If you're having a hard time running tier 18s, not tier 18, corrupted 8 mod maps, you might have an issue with the 17s, but maybe be a little bit more choosy. If you just want to try, see if you can make the strategy work, you do not have to use the Scarab. You can just chisel your maps while white, hit them with an Elk, and just kind of Elk and go this strategy without making them supercharged with this corrupted Scarab. For the next Scarab we're going to be using 2 of the increased maps found in the era. That is a no-brainer. And then for the last one, you can either run the maps found in area are a tier higher, up to 16, or if you have some cartography Scarab duplication, you can run these. If you don't want to run 8 mod maps, you can actually run 2 of these, so you get a 60% chance that the maps are duplicated. All of these strategies are very, very good. None of them are wrong, but pick your poison. Whichever one you want. If you don't want to run tier 8 maps, I would just throw another duplication. You don't want to pay for these. These are about 4 to 5 chaos a piece. You can just completely remove these, run an 8 mod, or just run with the tier up. Play around with this. Really depends on your build, what you're comfortable with, and what you want to be doing. Now, when you get some tier 17 maps, you can see it says only modifiable with chaos orbs. This is where your main money sink is going to go. Is for rerolling these. It's very annoying, but you will make this money back as long as you can complete most of the map, and especially if you can kill the boss. Depending on what boss it is, even if it's one of the crappier ones, that has a bias to drop the least expensive shards, the overboss shards, it is still probably going to cover that chaos, and you're going to be getting a ton of Scarabs and other drops from the T17 map. So I'm going to put at the end of this video a clip of when I go through the mods that I think you should avoid. I did that video yesterday. I'm not going to make you go and click and watch that video. At the end of this video, I am just going to insert that part of the video into this one to put it all in one place. We are going to want to roll these, and you can see you can get more currency, higher quantity, higher rarity. You can get Scarabs, and you want at least a Scarab roll, and ideally a currency roll or a item quantity or pack size roll on this. So you can see this has a 50% Scarab. It says a 140 currency. You'd want that kind of flipped. You'd want, closer to 100 Scarab, and if it's a lower currency, that is fine. But again, you're going to have to be picky. You can see this one, players can regenerate life, mana, or energy shield. This would brick my build. It'd brick a lot of yours too. So you have to keep rolling. watch out for the super scary modifiers that I'm going to go over after the video. Keep in mind, if you are running this tree with all of the increased effect, these are amplified by a lot. So that monsters deal 109% extra physical damage as cold. That is going to be amplified closer to 250, especially if you get a good roll on the back to basics when you put the map in the map device. If you get 2 damage modifiers, like monsters deal 109% as extra damage as cold, and monsters gain 190% of their physical damage as extra damage of a random element, if you get 2 damage multipliers, that is pretty much a no-go unless you are incredibly tanky. Now, once you roll and you get a map you can do, now this one has a very high currency roll, it has a decent item quantity roll. I would usually keep rolling this until it got Scarabs. I would prefer Scarabs, but for the sake of the video, I am just going to, say, I'm going to run this one. Now, the Scarabs I use for this. This has a little bit of leeway involved. I'm just going to give you the ones that I use. Scarab of Adversaries, very cheap Scarab. You can use 2 of these. It's going to give you more rare monsters. Then you run the Hunted Traders, gives you better pack size. Also, a very cheap Scarab, very common. These are not going to go up in price anytime soon, and they drop quite often, so you're going to be practically able to self-sustain these while you're running tier 17 maps. And then the last one, the Horn Scarab of Nemesis. Rare monsters in the area have 2 additional modifiers, and this goes amazingly well with rare monsters in your maps have 50% increased chance to drop Scarabs per monster modifier affecting them. So these 2 work together to run this strategy. Now, some people mess around with the barrels, Scarab, and ones like that. I have not, so I can't speak on that. I really like using these 4, and they are cheap, so I'm just going to run these. Now, when you run these, the ones you have to look out for, especially with Abomination, are the Charred Beasts that have the Wretched Defiler. Look for this icon. These guys are Cancer. The Wretched Defiler is a Revenant, or Revenant? Revenant? I think it might be called a Revenant. He will screw your shiz up. You want to get rid of him and put something else on here. And if you think you're going to have a hard time with these maps, put frogs and rats on a bunch of these. Like, these guys are super annoying. These range guys that fire very fast, and they can also petrify you. I replace these all the time. But out of this list, this is a guaranteed replace. Always replace them. As you're going through these maps, again, we are farming them. And you're thinking, well, you could sell them for, 50, 60, 70 chaos. But, use them. Don't get too down if you fail a map. It is kind of a learning experience on how to run these and which monsters you want to get rid of. But again, we want to get rid of the Wretched Defiler, and we're going to turn him into a rat. I don't like the Basilisks. They're super annoying. I'm just going to turn them into the Ramako Warriors because they are still easier than this. I'm going to make the packs upgraded to Magic because we want as many blue monsters as possible. And then the increased damage put down here. Power charge on hit. I hopefully will not be getting close enough where this is going to matter, so I'll put that up there. The increased damage, obviously, I want down here. Now, when you run these, you want to go slow. Oh my god, it goes slow. You will get killed by on-death effects very, very easily if you are moving too fast. You can see I'm already getting Scarab drops. I'm already having shit thrown at me. I'm already having a hard time talking while doing this. But you can see you get huge drops as you go through this. Some more Hunted Traders. Pick up all the Scarabs. Now, when you die, make sure you clear your inventory every single time if you are getting, because your inventory is going to fill very, very fast with Scarabs. You're going to want to clear those so that you aren't in a situation where your inventory is full and you have to start clearing the map because you're on your last 2 portals and you don't want to waste one going back. Then once you kill a bunch of stuff and you die or you finish the map, you have to go back, clear your inventory, go back in the map, and run through all the places you just cleared. It's just not fun to go and run through the entire map again, picking up all the stuff you could have picked up on the first pass if you would have just remembered to clear your inventory that one time you died. Quick side note and correction, it's the Devouring Fragment, actually, that is worth a decent amount. It's worth 1.3 Divine also. So you kind of want to do the bosses that have one of these 2 that can drop. I didn't mean to say the Decaying Fragment. That one isn't worth as much. It's about 63 Chaos. So just a quick correction on that. Now, if you're really struggling with these maps, you can obviously try and run these without back to basics, or even taking out some of the points in the increased effect of explicit modifiers and tone to your liking. The strategy will still be viable, it just won't be quite as profitable, but I still think you would make a decent profit, and then you could use that profit to make your character stronger, so you can amp these up and use something like back to basics, I would take these points out and see if you can do it before I would take it out of Back to Basics. Back to Basics just gives you such an extreme jump in your quantity and your drops that I would take this out last and use that as a last resort, take it out. But, you know, try it, see how your build works. Try to get a little bit stronger and then put more points into things, making it harder and increasing your rewards as you go. So once I run out of tier 17 maps, I just go back into the fields and I farm some more tier 17 maps using those scarabs and keeping the same atlas tree, because again, this is like a hybrid tree. Now you are going to have a ton of scarabs to trade, and I'm going to say this sentence quick to sell them. And I'm saying that so people don't click out the video when I say this. You are going to want to use the TFT bulk selling tool, but you do not use TFT. You do not have to use TFT, you just use the tool. For example, when you go to the TFT bulk selling tool, you can go in and log in. It will connect to your account. It is safe. It is fine. This is an amazing tool. It's going to read all of your tabs. You can click on the one your scarabs are in. You can click your scarab tab, select tab, and click. Now, the only reason we're using this is because it will sort it by divine value. You can see what ones you might want to be looking at to sell. Now, unless you really need 10 chaos, I don't plan on selling a Blight Scarab of Blooming off the bat. I'm going to be looking for my higher stacks with the higher value. I have 2.59 div in Mysterious Scarabs. I know that now. I have 161 of them. So I can go back to my stash, go to my Scarabs tab, and see there they are. These are the barrel scarabs. If I'm not using them, I can sell them. You can use Awaken POE trade or just generally price them how the TFT bulk selling tool told you how much they're worth. Looks like one divine is about 62 of them around-ish. You could probably go one for 60, one for 61 if you are a little bit more patient. But you would just put one divine for 60, 1/60, change that to divine, and click OK. Now, if you want to use TFT, you can sell them in bulk. It's super annoying. You have to lower the price quite a bit. I highly suggest just doing what I did and going to the tool, seeing which ones you have that are really worth it, and going through and pricing them accordingly. Now, here's Yesterday's Save to talk about the mods you should avoid under tier 17 maps. And now let's go over some of the BS mods you want to avoid. I'm just going to keep re-rolling this map, and as I see them, explain them, editing it with it. Now, these are only modifiable with Chaos Orbs. It says it literally on the map, and remember, you can always hold Alt on things you don't understand what it does, and it'll generally tell you what it does. This one tells you what Mark for Death does, this one tells you what Vulnerability does, etc., in case you are ever curious. But some of the ones that you want to avoid are: players are marked for death. This one can S a D. It is very annoying. For 10 seconds after you kill a rare unique monster, you take increased damage and you cannot recover life or energy shield at all. That is leech or anything like that. So you are basically just stagnant. Now, the way I run these, and I'm going to do another video on my farming strategy, is I get a lot of increased effect of the map modifiers. So, and also with Back to Basics, you can get a ton of the modifier effect, which means for me, this 10 seconds turns into about 20 to 30 seconds. So that is a no-brainer. No from me, dog. I will not run this, although I did complete one map once, and it took me about 15 minutes because I would run in, kill a bunch of group of things, get marked for death, back up, wait for 30 seconds, you know, go to the bathroom, get a drink, go kill another big mod, run away. I just kind of wanted to see if I could do it, or maybe I'm just stupid and masochistic. Not really sure, but that is one you want to avoid. Area contains additional clusters of highly volatile barrels. Now, these are very dangerous if you are moving too quickly. It's like the small barrels, except these will one-shot you. But it is kind of a catch-22 because they do drop items, and a lot of people do have strategies going around getting this mod to get a little bit more items, or it can be a lot more items. I haven't done a strategy utilizing this or really focusing on this, so I can't speak to that, but I do know people like it. Just know if you run this mod, go a little bit slower, because if you run into them and they pop, or you pop them while you're next to them, there's a solid chance they're going to kill you. Players are targeted by a meteor when they use a flask, and this meteor hurts, and it comes down after you use a flask. It takes about 2 seconds, and then it lands. It's not so annoying for me, because I use a Mage Blood, and it doesn't count as using them, so I never get a meteor dropping down unless I use my 5th flask. But if you are using your flask consistency, this is probably a no-no, unless you are incredibly aware of it and you are constantly moving as your flasks are being used. This one, rare monsters have volatile cores. You've seen this effect before. whether it's the green chaos ball or it's the magma ball. Once they die, it comes up, it goes towards you, and once it gets close to you, it starts to proc, and you have to move away. Or you can just run through it, like as it's coming towards you, run under it. No proc, and you do not get hit. This one is annoying, but it is not, in my opinion, one that kills the map. You just have to be aware of it and be ready to, once you kill a couple rares or a rare, to back up. Now, if you're a melee, keep in mind, once you kill them, the ball appears above them. As soon as they are dead, you need to get away a lot quicker. The Maven interferes with players. If you do not like the sound clip of Maven saying the same thing 400 times a map, you do not want to run this. But the other way it can brick it is she has a thing that heals bosses. She might heal normal enemies, I don't know. They usually can't out-heal just dying in general. But the bosses, it is very, very noticeable. And this really depends on your character. If you think you can outscale her healing, you can do it. But a lot of builds can't. I can, but it is super, super annoying. It definitely makes the fight a little bit longer. So just know that. Her damaging things aren't super annoying or seemed overtuned, but that heal is really the one you want to watch out for. Players and their minions do new damage for 4 out of every seconds. Don't do this one. Super annoying. Unless you want it to take forever, and unless you are really timing out the way that you attack. All magic and normal monsters in area are in a union of souls. I have bricked 2 maps with this because the first one I thought, that doesn't sound too bad. Magic and normal monsters, they can't get too strong. And then a couple days later, I seemed to forget how strong they got, and I ran again and bricked it. This is literally all the magic and normal monsters in the area. It's not in just their pack. It's the whole map. So halfway through the map, you have some badass, very gigantic motherfuckers just beating your ass. Do not run this unless you have a stupid OP build. If you have a stupid OP build, I'm not really sure why you're watching this video. So generally, I would not run this. Rare monsters in area are Shape or Touch. This one sucks a lot. A lot of monsters. All the rare monsters are going to be doing Shaper Slams. While you're just running around, you won't even see it coming. Just bam, you're dead. And then a ton of them get Shaper Beams. So there's beams all over the damn place. So I do not run this, and I don't suggest you run this one either. You guys noticing a pattern? There's a lot of bullshit mods, and that's why these are kind of expensive to run. Because, you're using like 20 to 60. I've used close to 100 chaos just rolling these damn things. Now, the rewards are generally worth it if you have a solid farming strategy. But in general, they kind of suck to have to reroll. Monster projectiles can chain when colliding with terrain. This is super, super annoying, especially if you get monsters like Revenants, which we'll go over in a second, the things that you should do. But in general, the chain when colliding with terrain, I don't know if it is really breaking the map. You can probably still run it, just be aware. It is a lot harder, especially if you have a lot of monsters that are shooting projectiles. Watch out for the players have percentage less defenses. If you are doing a strategy where you get increased map effect, you're using back to basics. This basically shuts off all your defenses, and every just about 60% of the stuff in the map will one-shot you, so you gotta watch out for this one too. The drowning orbs, you can deal with these, but they are annoying. They are the Eater of Worlds orbs, where if you look at them, they get smaller and go away, but if they get on top of you, they kind of get your vision to kind of compress, and you have to use a movement skill or be able to run out very quickly before it kills you. You can deal with these, but very annoying. I don't think it destroys the map, though. Petrification statues. These are also deal-withable. That's not really a word, but we're going to make it one. They will pop out of the ground. They're little gray statues. They shoot a beam, petrification beam at you, kind of like the basilisks do. If you look away, the beam stops. If you just run away, the beam stops, or run out of its range. If you stand there too long, you get petrified for about 5 to 6 seconds. Very bad. You can deal with it if you just keep an eye out for them, so I don't think it's bricking. Just want to let you know what they do. And the last one I'm going to talk about is the Bloodstained Saw Blades. These suck. You get about 5 or 6 saw blades that appear around you, and then they cross into you. I guess it is an ultimatum thing. I didn't play Ultimatum League, so I don't know. All I know is they suck. They do a ton of damage, and the only way I've been able to deal with them is by putting a health potion on my bar and getting ready to spam the shit out of it if I get hit by them, because they can bleed you. They do a ton of damage unless you are really tanky. This is a no-go also. And that's what I've been doing, guys. I'm a very tough strategy, but incredibly rewarding the way I think it kind of should be. Even if you don't make the maps as tough, I still think it would be a very profitable strategy, so go try this out. If anyone's got any tips or things that I've missed, there's always a couple things that I miss. Someone says in the comments, I go, oh yeah, duh. Actually, while I'm thinking about that, another thing, if you take off Back to Basics, you can run the Nico mod right here, so that when you get the veins in the tier 17 map, you can make yourself stronger and make it a lot more easier on yourself. I'm glad I got that in at the last second, or I got a million comments on that. Yeah, guys, get subscribed, comment, throw a like on the video. It helps a ton. Get followed over on twitch.tv/SafeOnTalk, and join the Discord and come hang out with us. It's getting more and more active. We're talking about some cool stuff all the time, and we'd love to have you in there. So thanks again, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.